Okay, we'll start now. See, I just wanted to say that today I am taking a break from the regular topics, and I will be discussing the ethics paper of this year. As you know, the exam was held about 4 or 5 days back on 24th of this month, and today is 29th. So we will start today's discussion on uh, UPSC GS4 ethics paper. Uh, we'll continue this for next 3 or 4 classes because case studies have to be discussed in detail and also theoretical questions. So I want to complete this in maybe next 3 or 4 classes. Today, what I will do is I will first want to tell you how the paper was, and then I would take up the case studies one by one. Few I will be able to complete today, and few in next class we can complete. Now, but before I will take case studies, I would also like to tell you once again, because 2 or 3 times I have already discussed in my class, and these are available as YouTube videos also, how to write good answers as far as ethics paper is concerned. So that also I will tell. But before that, let me tell you my comments on this year's ethics paper. Most of you might have already seen that because the students who are preparing for next year's exam, it's a very important document for them. Now, what I feel is this year's exam paper was little more lengthy as well as difficult also compared to recent previous years. If you compared with 2022, 2023, 2024, 25 paper was 2025 paper was little more lengthy and little more difficult. If you see the case studies also, longer paragraphs have been given, not less than 300 words each case study was. And for each case study also, 3 or 4 questions have been asked. Uh, and not only that, even case studies are also a little more complex, more sensitive, where, as Kidman says, the dilemma between right versus right is a little more difficult to select, little more difficult to justify. So those things are there in case studies. Theoretical questions also, if you see, uh, I mean, as far as length of word limit, etc., is same, but again, the indirect questions have increased more in number because it's very easy for direct questions to be prepared and to reply also in the exam. So indirect questions, when they come, then you have to actually apply your mind in the examination because you will not get the ready-made answers from outside. I mean, which you might have practiced or which you might have prepared. So this year's exam contained more number of indirect questions uh, as far as theoretical part is concerned, more complex case studies, more longer paragraphs in case studies, and even more sensitive case studies, I will say. So now, before I take up the strategy for attempting the exam paper, now let me show you the paper also, exam paper also, and then we will go to how to write good answer as far as the uh, exam is concerned. So, see, this is the exam paper. Most of you might have already seen this. The exam paper, as you see, the instructions and all those things are almost same because uh, 250 marks, 3 hours, and then each theoretical question has 2 parts, A and B. Third question has 3 parts, A, B, and C. So all this you can see. And then, as I told, after sixth questions, from seventh questions, case studies start. Case study, if you see, the number of words, it's quite lengthy case studies. You have to read it carefully. And for example, in first case study, you see there are four questions have been asked. So this also makes it more lengthier. In third, that is in eighth question, if you see, that is second case study, again the big paragraph is there. 2 questions have been asked. Then again, sorry, 3 questions have been asked, A, B, and C. In ninth, if you see, again a very big paragraph is there. And here again, 3 questions have been asked. So what I want to say is, if you see all the case studies, 3, 4 questions, and very big paragraphs have been given, 3 or 4 paragraphs, maybe 300, 350 words. So which means it's really, you have to uh, read it carefully, you have to apply your mind, and then reply. Again, in last case study, 4 parts are there, 4 questions have been asked. Just I want to show this because you will understand the complexity of the question. And anyway, it's very difficult to answer in 3 hours because number of words are same, but the readings which you have to do in the actual exam is really quite lengthy and quite this thing. Now, what I will do is how to write good answers as far as UPSC ethics is concerned. I will just discuss before taking up the case study. I have already discussed this in earlier classes also, but this is worth repeating because once we are attempting the model answers for the actual exam papers, we should also know what are the main components, or what should be the main components of model answers, and then we should try to uh, accordingly understand and accordingly uh, write whenever we practice for practice tests as well as in actual exam. So first point is directive is very, very important for any question. Directive precision, read the question. This is very, very important. So what we do, what students want is they know a lot about the topic and forgetting what is the directive. I have seen many students writing like that. They write everything which they know about the topic, but that is not going to fetch you good marks. So this is very important. For example, few examples I have written here. For example, if the directive is discuss, which means you have to present both views with neutrality, positive views, negative views. Suppose it is critically examined, then you have to weigh strengths and limitations. You have to focus more on negative points and then finally give your conclusion. If it is evaluate, then again provide a judgment with an evidence. So what I want to say is you have to read the question very clearly, whether it is theoretical question, whether it is case studies also equally applicable, and then write what is asked. Don't write what you know, because that is the usual tendency of the students. Then precise definition of ethical concepts, because you have to be very clear and uh, I mean, you cannot simply say beating around the bush. You have to be very, very precise as far as the definition is concerned, as far as the uh, uh, I mean, concepts are concerned. Because if you don't know, and if you want to just fool the examiner by adding some uh, unnecessary sentences, words, etc., so that kind of padding, etc., is not going to help you. So this is again important. Then, which I keep on telling again and again, and it's very, very important. In every question, to the extent possible, you have to mention administrative relevance of the ethical concept. Because if you don't do that, you are going to lose marks. And if you do it, definitely it will upgrade the quality of your answer. For example, policy examples you can give, dilemmas, actual example of dilemmas you can give, citizen interface you can mention. You can mention actual administrative uh, actions which have been taken by uh, good officers, by uh, important bureaucrats. But in here, a word of caution, I will say, don't try to name any controversial uh, uh, officer or controversial, because then uh, I mean, you are risky basically. So you have to select officer and example which is non-controversial and which is aptly applicable to the question you are writing the answer for. Next is strategic use of ethical theories. This is again very, very important. because on the one hand, examples, administrative relevance or example is important. On the other hand, you have to use ethical theories also. For example, whether it is deontology of Kant, whether it is utilitarianism of Mill and Bentham, whether it is Aristotle's theory or Gandhian ethics. So all these things, I mean, you have to appropriately apply and mention in the answers. Then this I have already covered in here itself in administrative relevance. Realistic and service-based examples, because this is very important. But again, I will repeat, don't quote controversial examples, because that will risk your this thing, get opportunity of getting marks. Then moral dilemmas and administrative trade-offs. This again important. While writing the answer, show the ethical decisions involve competing principles. For example, transparency versus confidentiality, truth versus compassion, right-based justice versus situational equality. So all these things, I mean, these are examples, but these kind of dilemmas do occur. For example, individual versus society. Sometimes individual freedom will be risked, and sometimes the societal interest will be risked. So, or development versus welfare. So, all those things also you need to mention clearly in your answer. Then, philosophical closure in the conclusion, or you can say ethical closure in the conclusion. So this is again very important. Use quotes wisely, because sometimes ending and beginning of the answer is very important. If both are attractive, both are start of the answer is also catching, and end is also uh, uh, attractive, you may get better marks. Then ethical tone and structure. This is again very important, because your writing strategy have to be mostly paragraph wise, because unless, I keep on telling to the students, unless there is a clear directive that enumerate or uh, list out, then only you should use bullet points or 1, 2, 3 or numbered or all those. Otherwise, you should be writing in small paragraphs, changing the paragraphs in a very logical transition, in not in haste, and then finally concluding the answer. Again, next important thing is word economy and time management, because space is limited. So not only you have to stick to the word, because here 10 marks question, 150 words questions will be there, but you have to also stick to time also. So if you don't stick to that, you are both ways you are going to damage your whole paper. So please follow that. Then moral maturity and administrative balance. Because this is again very important, and this is important not only in this paper but also further in interview, etc. also, because while you are writing, while you are talking to somebody, while you are discussing, these qualities are very important as far as an administrator is concerned. So on the one hand, you have to be empathy, then on the other hand, you should also have decisiveness. You cannot simply have one. Then integrity and adaptability, justice and sensitivity, courage with restraint. So all these are examples, because these are sometimes viewed as contradictory qualities, but these are not, because then, I mean, you have to have both. So then only you will be able to convince the examiner that you are writing a good answer, or you are a good candidate as far as interview is concerned. Next is case studies, because this is the theoretical questions I have told. Now for case studies, let me explain briefly how to write, or what should be the components of a good answer as far as case study is concerned, to the extent possible. Once again, I'm telling you, all these qualities may not be applicable, or all these criteria may not be applicable to any one answer. Only few may be applicable, depending on the nature of the question, depending on the nature of case study, depending on the nature of the questions asked. So don't think that everything you have to write. Depends what is the question asked, and accordingly, which are the good features you should have in the answer, whether it is case study or whether it is theoretical question. So first is list use of ethical frameworks. Now, this is again very important, because in case studies, answering particularly, and in most of the cases, it's usually asked also, what are the ethical dilemmas involved, what ethical frameworks you will use. So you have to know all those, and I mean, my other classes and my other videos, it's already available. There are more than 27 such ethical frameworks, or even more. but 27 or 28 I have listed and I have explained. So those ethical frameworks will not apply everywhere. I mean, few will apply at some places, few may not apply at other places. Now, these are, I mean, some examples, if you can see, Kidder's paradigm. What Kidder has said that, I mean, the values will compete with each other. It's not, I mean, wrong versus right, but it's right versus right. So both values which are equally important will compete with each other. For example, truth versus loyalty, individual versus community, short term versus long term, justice versus mercy. So all these are important values. And in a way, you can argue in favor of any. So that also is important. So you have to find out which argument is appropriate and correct in which case study, and then accordingly you have to add. Then Potter box model. This is define facts, identify values, apply principles, prioritize loyalties, and then decide. So this is Potter box model. Then another very important, Marculas centers 5-step strategy. Now this, first you recognize what is the problem, what is the dilemma, and then evaluate, then identify, make decision, and act. So these are 5 stages which Markula, one of the ethical thinkers, has given. Now these frameworks, these are the frameworks for analysis of the case study basically. So these frameworks will definitely add to analytical depth and will ensure that you are going to analyze the case study in a very systematic manner so that you are able to answer it more properly. Then framing of ethical dilemma, 30 to 40 words. I mean, this is when an open question is asked. Now we have seen, I mean, today's case study, which we will see also subsequently, because it's clearly asked also what are the ethical dilemmas involved as far as this case study is concerned. So there you have to reply accordingly. So their number of words may change also, because here I'm writing just because if 250 words, whole thing has to be replied, then what? But if ethical dilemma is specifically asked in one of the 3 questions, then accordingly you have to increase or decrease the number of words depending on the requirement. So start with a sharp summary of the ethical situation. What is the core conflict you have to identify and write? Which values or duties are in tension you have to find out and write? Which administrative or constitutional role is there for the concerned officer in the case study to hold, and whether he is doing that or not, and how he will do that or not do that. So all those things you have to identify and you have to write correctly. Another point is stakeholders mapping, because see, mapping is required because you should know very clearly who are the stakeholders as far as this case study is concerned, or this conflict is concerned, or this ethical dilemma is concerned. And accordingly, then you can decide which stakeholder you have to support, in favor of whom, and whom you have to, I mean, make it neutral. For example, if public is involved as a stakeholder, their impact level is very high. So if you see the impact level, wherever high impact level is there, I mean, those stakeholders you have to support. Wherever it's low or medium, at least you can give some second preference or second priority. So this is what you have to do after identifying stakeholder clearly in the case study. Ethical values in conflict, you have to clearly mention. I have already earlier point also, this was mentioned. For example, if it may be rule of law versus human dignity, it may be confidentiality versus right to know, it may be neutrality versus moral responsibility. And here, in such case, use of ethical terms is also very, very important. For example, probity, prudence, these are some examples. I mean, there may be list, and I keep on telling to all the students, please do have a notebook, digital or physical, of all ethical terms, chapter wise or topic wise, ethical terms and phrases, etc., or ethical thinkers list, and you use it appropriately whenever you write the answer for practice test or whenever you write the practice answer. So, for example, probity, prudence, non-partisanship, empathy, justice, transparency, all are important ethical terms. Then another point is option analysis. And this is also clearly asked here, 60 to 80 words it has been mentioned, but these words may decrease and increase depending on the question or the case study which you are attempting. So which options are available to the concerned officer, that you have to identify. And then you have to analyze and evaluate each option. which option has what positive point, what are the pros and cons for each option, and then accordingly you have to finally decide which option he has to follow. Then decision and ethical justification. That's what I told, that out of analyzing all the options, you clearly say that this option is the best option as far as such and such case study or such and such scenario or officer is concerned, and these are its justifications. This is what you have to mention. So choose the best option, aligning law, ethics, and compassion, justify with ethical theories, with constitutional values, with practical measures. And one more thing I will add here, sometimes when legal issues are involved, you have to justify it with court cases also. Because Supreme Court cases also, because this is included in the constitutional values or constitutional morality. So constitutional morality includes not only constitution, but also various legal provisions, various acts, various statutes, as well as Supreme Court decisions also, which are binding on the judiciary. So that also is important as far as constitutional values are concerned. And then you have to show also how legality and empathy are harmonized. So that should be your aim and attempt. Then conclusion with ethical insight. This is very important, because whenever you are writing any case study answer, and if some concluding remarks you have to write, you have to write the conclusion with ethical insight. So, this is what in briefly, and the number of words also important. Ideal words 230 to 270, depending on which part A, B, C, D you are attempting. Because if you increase or decrease, if you decrease, you are going to lose marks. If you increase, anyway you cannot, because space is not available, but you will waste unnecessary time also. So this is what you have to do. Now, what I will do is I will take up a few case studies. So let me start it and see how many I can complete. Maybe two at least I can definitely complete, and then I will take up other case studies in next class. So you see now, this is the actual exam paper case studies of 2025, which was conducted again, I am telling, on 24th of this month, 24th of August 2025. So in the version I am not reading, I will straight away go to English version. But you see how big paragraphs are. So I will read the case study just to understand what is the essence of case, and what is the thrust of the case, and what are the ethical values involved, and then we will see how we can answer. So Vijay was Deputy Commissioner of remote district of hilly northern state in the country for the last 2 years. In the month of August, heavy rains lashed the complete state, followed by a cloud burst in upper reaches of said district. Damage was very heavy in the complete state, especially in the affected district. The complete road network and telecommunications were disrupted, and the buildings were damaged extensively. People's houses have been destroyed, and they were forced to stay in open. More than 200 people have been killed, and about 5,000 were badly injured. The civil administration under Vijay got activated and started conducting rescue and relief operations. Temporary shelter camps and hospitals were established to provide shelter and medical facilities to the homeless and injured people. Helicopter services were pressed in for evacuating sick and old people from remote areas. Vijay got a message from his hometown in Kerala that his mother was seriously sick. After 2 days, Vijay received the unfortunate message that his mother has expired. Vijay has no close relatives except one elder sister who was US citizen and staying there for last several years. In the meantime, the situation in the affected district deteriorated further due to resumption of heavy rains after a gap of 5 years. At the same time, continuous messages were coming on his mobile from his hometown to reach at the earliest for performing the last rites of his mother. Now, this is very sensitive case study. If you see, on the one hand, death of mother has occurred. On the other hand, people are dying because of a lot of floods and the disaster which has occurred in the district. So this is very, very sensitive kind of case study, and it's very difficult to choose which option Vijay will choose. So the questions are accordingly also, if you see, what are the options available to the Vijay or with Vijay? What are the ethical dilemma being faced by Vijay. Critically evaluate and examine each of these options identified by Vijay. Which options do you think would be most appropriate for Vijay to adopt and why? So basically, these are 4 questions, and 250 words means each question has to be answered in about uh, 50 to 60 or 70 words, not more than that. So roughly 60, 65 words, or maybe one part maybe may take 70, 80 words, another part may take about 50 words. So like that. So basically 250 words means, and each part will get 20 marks question is 5 marks question. So now, uh, I mean, this sensitive case study is really difficult for students to answer it on this spot, because if you have not practiced it earlier, it will be really very difficult. So this is one of the difficult case studies asked in this exam. That's what I can tell you. Now, let us see how we will start the answer. So first question is, what are the options available with Vijay? Now let us see. And directly we will, without giving any introduction, directly we'll go to that. Now, options available with Vijay, what are? Leave immediately for Kerala to perform his mother's last rite. This is first option. Second option in remain in the district and entrust last rites to community or priests. This is second option. Third is take short emergency leave after delegating authority to senior officers. Fourth, request state government for temporary substitution of charge. So these are basically 4 options practically, if you see, in this kind of situation. Now, what is the ethical dilemma? Now, second question is, what are the ethical dilemma being faced by Vijay? Now, let us see. So, ethical dilemma being faced by Vijay. Vijay faces a conflict between personal duty as a son, because this is very, very important, and public duty as a district magistrate. Because on the one hand, he has a personal duty to perform the last rites of mother. On the other hand, there is a public duty as district magistrate. This is a classic role conflict between ethics of care of Carol Gilligan and ethics of duty, that is Kant. It's deontology. Then, also engaging utilitarianism, Bentham and Mill, greatest good for greatest number. From the Indian perspective, the Bhagavad Gita's notion of Swadharma and Kautilya's Rajdharma also highlight primacy of duty towards subjects. So basically, in this, that is what is the ethical dilemma. You have not only, or the answer should not only give what dilemma Vijay faces, but then also you have to tell which value or which option or which dilemma is supported by which ethical theory. So that also has been mentioned very clearly. Some Western theories have been quoted and some Indian theories also. For example, Gita and Kautilya are very, very relevant as far as this case is concerned. Now, what is C part of the question? Critically evaluate and examine each of these options identified by Vijay. Now, let us go to that. Evaluation of each option, which means we have to tell pros and cons of each option, because we have earlier identified 4 options, and now we will tell that. Now, option 1. Option 1 is, what is option 1? Leave immediately for Kerala and perform mother's rites. Now, what is the positive and negative points? Fulfills filial obligation, that is Confucian ideal of filial piety, but risks dereliction of public duty and may cause loss of lives, ethically weak option. So this is first option. Analysis and pros and cons of each option we have to give. Second, what is second option we have noted? Remain in the district and entrust last rites to community priests. What is the second option's pros and cons? Prioritizes Raj Dharma of Chanakya, that is Praja Sukhe Sukham, but denies emotional closure affecting a long-term efficiency. So this is also not very appropriate option as far as pros and cons is concerned. What is the third option? Take short emergency leave after delegating authority to senior officers. Balances both. Delegation of relief work to competent officers ensures continuity. While he performs essential rites, it reflects Max Weber's principle of delegation and responsibility and the Aristotelian virtue of pronesis, that is practical wisdom. What is option 4? Request state government for temporary substitution of charge, that is transfer. Is formally correct but practically slow in fast moving disaster situation, because if you ask for the transfer, It may take time, and I mean, it also will be seen as a negative, because when the problem is there, you are running away from the problem. So this option is not also very appropriate. So now, what is the deep part of the question? Which options do you think would be most appropriate for Vijay to adopt, and why? So now we have to go to deep part. Now, most appropriate option is option 3, is ethically most sound. By delegating and coordinating, Vijay upholds his public service duty while fulfilling filial piety. This embodies utilitarian ethics, Kantian responsibility, Aristotelian prudence, and also Indian ideals of Niskam Karma, ensuring both human sensitivity and administrative efficiency. So now this completes our first case study of this year. Now we'll go to second case study. Again, Hindi thing I'm not reading. I will go directly to English version. In line with directive principles of state policy enshrined in the Indian Constitution, the government has a constitutional obligation to ensure basic needs, roti, kapda or makan, that is food, cloth and shelter, for the underprivileged. Pursuing this mandate, the district administration proposed clearing a portion of forest land to develop housing for the homeless and economically weaker sections of the society. The proposed land, however, is an ecologically sensitive zone, densely populated with age-old trees, medicinal plants, and vital biodiversity. Besides, these forests help to regulate microclimate and rainfalls, provide habitat for wildlife, support soil fertility, and prevent land and soil erosion, and sustain livelihoods of tribal and nomadic communities. In spite of the ecological and social costs, the administration argues in favor of proposal by highlighting that this very initiative addresses fundamental human rights as a critical welfare priority. Besides, it fulfills the government's duty to uplift and empower the poor through inclusive housing development. Further, these forest areas have become unsafe due to wild animals threats and recurring human wildlife conflicts. Lastly, clearing forest zones may help to curb antisocial elements allegedly using these areas as hideouts, thereby enforcing law and order, enhancing law and order. Now, you see, I mean, this very big case study reading, because at least 3-4 minutes, even if you try to read very fast, 3-4 minutes, it will be taken 5 minutes, it will be taken for reading. So very lengthy case study, and little more again complex also, because very sensitive issues have been raised, and it's very difficult to justify one against the other. But now let us see what are the questions. Can deforestation be ethically justified in pursuit of social welfare objectives like housing for the homeless? This is first question. Second question is, what are the socio-economic, administrative, and ethical challenges in balancing environmental conservation with human development? This is second question. Third is, what substantial alternatives or policy interventions can be proposed to ensure that both environmental integrity and human dignity are protected? Now, this is third question. And this has to be again answered in 250 words for 20 marks. So now we'll see one by one. So first is, can deforestation be ethically justified in pursuit of social welfare objectives like housing for the homeless? Now let us see. This first part, can deforestation be ethically justified? Now, providing roti, kapda or makan fulfills directive principles, Articles 39 and 47, and dignity under Article 21, yet clearing sensitive forests violates Article 48A and Article 51AG of the Constitution. Again, we are now quoting Supreme Court case also. In the beginning only, I told you, whenever legal issues, whenever constitutional morality comes up, Supreme Court cases have to be quoted, because Supreme Court has come up with its own judgments pertaining to various articles of Constitution and various statutes also. So in Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar, SC held that right to life includes clean environment also. Utilitarian ethics of mill may favor immediate welfare, but irreversible ecological loss undermines even the poor survival. Then Gandhi's dictum, this is very important. You need to quote wherever you require. Earth provides enough for man's need, not greed. And also Buddha's ethics of ahimsa towards all life show the blanket deforestation cannot be ethically justified. So this is, see, now various constitutional provisions, Supreme Court cases, and ethical theories. after quoting all this in a very balanced manner, the conclusion is that blanket deforestation cannot be ethically justified. So now this completes the part A of the question. Now what is part B? What are the socio-economic, administrative, and ethical challenges in balancing environmental conservation and human development? Now let us see that. Challenges in balancing development and environment. First is socio-economic. Urgent housing versus displacement of tribals, loss of biodiversity. So this was upheld in Samta versus state of AP. This is again very important Supreme Court case pertaining to environment. Then second kind of challenge is administrative. Welfare goals versus environmental mandates under the Forest Conservation Act, weak coordination and political pressures. So this again, forest conservation has been mentioned, and challenge is administrative. Third is ethical. So anthropocentrism versus ecocentrism. And in the case, Supreme Court case, MC Mehta case, 1997, the court held that development cannot destroy environment. Similarly, Raoult's difference principle and intergenerational justice, affirmed in, again, Supreme Court case, AP Pollution Control Board versus Naidu, demand fairness across classes and generations. So these are the various challenges as far as development and environment, balancing development and environment is concerned. I will again read the question because to make it very clear, what are socio-economic, administrative, and ethical challenges? So three kinds of challenges have been asked in balancing environment conservation and human development. Accordingly, the answer is first socio-economic, then administrative, and then ethical. While answering it, relevant provisions have been quoted, cases have been quoted, acts have been quoted, constitutional provisions, and also Supreme Court cases have been quoted. Now, what is the third part of the question? What substantial alternatives or policy interventions can be proposed to ensure that both environment integrity and human dignity are protected? So again, I mean, all the three questions, if you see, are not simple questions. It's really for a student to read such a big paragraph and then try to write these answers. I mean, really, it's a complex case study and sensitive also, and little difficult also compared to previous years. Again, I'm telling same thing. Now, C part will come. Alternatives and policy interventions, which has been asked. Now, let us see what can be there. Use degraded non-forest land. This is first policy intervention can be there. Promote vertical housing. Then apply precautionary and polluter pays principle from Vellore case, Vellore Supreme Court case, again 1996. So, and these principles are very, very important as far as the environment is concerned, environment protection is concerned. Ensure participatory housing via Forest Rights Act 2006. Then eco-friendly design, compensatory afforestation with strict monitoring, as in Godavarman case. This is again very, very important case from Supreme Court for environment. Then for law and order, strengthen policing instead of clearing forests. Because one of the logic has been given in the paragraph that after we clear the forest, the antisocial elements will not be able to hide and law and order will be improved. So for that, the answer needs to include here. For law and order, strengthen policing instead of clearing forest. Implementation requires political will, resources, and community trust. So these are, I mean, main components of this part of the answer. And then in conclusion, as held in Narmada Bachao Andolan, true development is sustainable. Ethical governance must reconcile human dignity and ecological integrity, reflecting constitutional morality, Gandhian restraint, and intergenerational justice. See, whenever environment question is asked, this term intergenerational justice is very, very important and critical. It has to be used. Then only your question answer will be complete. So this basically completes the case studies which I wanted to take today. Now, because of shortage of time, what I will do is other 4 case studies are still there. So that I will be taking up in next class, and will complete the case studies in next class, and thereafter we will take up the theoretical questions also of this year's exam 2025. hope my this class has been useful to the students who are able to watch the video, and I thank you all for the participating, and